many times, so maybe he can shut us up once again. So let's get ready for game number 1, guys, between Amaz and StrifeCro, and find out what classes these guys are choosing. Hunter seems to be a very popular leadoff nowadays, so I would kind of expect that, and it is from StrifeCro. Amaz will lead off with Paladin, which, if he's guessing it's Hunter, is a pretty good pick in my opinion.
Yeah, I can agree with that. In my experience with Hunter, Paladin's always been kind of trouble. True Silver Champion brings a lot of weight in terms of disrupting synergies that Houndmaster can't be of huge relevance. And then a card like Consecration can really help clean up the board after you've lost your position a bit. So the 1/1s, it's not the most exciting thing in the world to be making 1/1s while your opponent has cards like Unleash the Hounds in their deck. But every little bit of that damage adds up. And it can even do something like set up equality if you get into a position where your opponent had some big Houndmaster turns. So it's nothing to scoff at, but it's not exactly exciting either. But this lead from StrifeCro is a very strong one. This is exactly what we were talking about earlier. Its consistency has really come to the forefront with cards like Web Spinner and Haunted Creeper.
It gives it the ability to answer classes even like Paladin or like Shaman, where early on, if you're able to seize the dominant position, you can't really fight back because Hunter can't really affect the state of the board because their hero power doesn't do anything to minions. But you have all these small creatures now, so that way you put on a little bit of pressure, and you can even stack it by continuing to get really good value. Mad Scientist puts a card in play. Web Spinner gives you a beast to potentially draw off with Unleash the Hounds and Starving Buzzard. Lots of options already for StrifeCro. He opts to go for the Haunted Creeper instead of the Mad Scientist, though, because I think he does have that Freezing Trap in hand, so maybe he doesn't necessarily need to go for a setup of something like a Explosive Trap if it pops out unnecessarily.
Yeah, I like playing the Haunted Creeper here. It gets a second beast on the board. It keeps a little bit of pressure going. You do want to play this Freezing Trap before something like Mad Scientist gets activated, and I think you want to drop Mad Scientist kind of going into a turn where you expect your opponent to use Consecration. Outside of that, I think just a little bit of board pressure is better. You'll get into damage while you can and go from there.
All right. Well, Harvest Golem is a really good minion to answer things early on, but we've been seeing a lot of people favor Freezing Trap just to get that early tempo and sneak in damage. And as much as Paladin has taunts and heals, there is a very big explosive burst potential that Hunter always has that you have to be mindful, because Leroy has always starting to rotate back in as one of those main finishers that mid-range Hunter has now.
Yeah, even when Leroy's not present in your opponent's deck, you oftentimes don't know that. Right. It's something you always have to consider. And it's one of those things that's very unique, I think, to Hearthstone that you don't see in a lot of other CCGs, at least the ones that I've played, where you're so in fear of cards that are going to burst you down, but they're not actually in your opponent's deck. It's just the threat of them alone allows your opponent to apply pressures in certain unique situations. But yeah, you have to worry about Leroy as far as this match is concerned.
Let me think.
Well, StrifeCro has decent quality of cards, Amaz has the decent quality of cards where he has Taunters, he's got ways to deal with some of these smaller minions like the Consecration. And he's going to be kind of disappointed when this Houndmaster pops out and is able to collect good big value. But he does have cards at his disposal to fight back. It's just whether or not he's able to stabilize the board in time, because Hunter continues to stack their advantage. And what they excel at is continue to sneak in these hero powers and ways to tickle you down, right? Where you're down to like 18, 16 health. And then from their point on, they just continue to put on pressure and you lose the game. So can Amaz really fight back on the board here, given that StrifeCro continues to stack his advantage and press for damage?
This is going to be a really tough game for him at this point. I mean, he's lost so much board position as it is. Killing off your opponent's board in a spot like this is almost rewarding to them, because they've already gotten value out of the Houndmaster, and they're going to get more value from their small minions that are in play. This is one of those games where I think it's just such a strong open from Hunter has really squelched the ability for Amaz to adequately answer what's happening.
I mean, look at this. It's such a terrible board to even use equality, right? Because they're spawning more minions. You're giving him the ability to respond because you're killing off and you're activating that Web Spinner on his own dime. So now you wipe your own board. StrifeCro picks up a Stone Tusk board, so that's not exactly the best minion, but maybe it comes in handy later.
Hi, Mom.
Will Amaz be able to get the key?
Do you just drop Loath up here, do you think?
Well, his play otherwise is pretty weak. Just the hero power to play a Mad Scientist.
Yep. It's got to be Loatheb. This might be one of the spots where Amaz can start to turn it around, though. Sludge Belcher feels like it's really strong here. And that's going to lead into a potential Consecration. This is the kind of turn that he needed in order to turn the game around, but I still think StrifeCro is going to be able to push through if you just look at his hand composition.
Yeah, and if StrifeCro can't really use this board or use the cards that he hands, and he keeps drawing poorly. Say he picks up like, you know, his other Hunter's Mark or something, and he doesn't have minions to drop. Hunter has a very sharp drop off where if they're not dropping things and plopping threats on the board, they often kind of lose control, and then all of a sudden they're playing the control game when they need to kind of be pushing and pressuring. And then all of a sudden they're using all their tools at their disposal to just stabilize, and Paladin can just out heal and play the slow game, and then they have no more threats left. So StrifeCro has to kind of make this work because he has damage, but Paladin is one of the best rebound classes for damage in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, something that's interesting to note here too is he chose to use the Hunter's Mark over the kill command, and I think that's 100% correct. He needs to make the push for damage, and if he decides to save the Hunter's Mark for, say, like a next taunt or whatever, or if he anticipates a bigger taunt coming out, it just ends up being a card that's often dead in his hand. So even if he anticipates a bigger taunt coming out, it's probably better to go ahead and save kill command anyway, because the times your opponent doesn't have a bigger taunt, you're able to make that big push for damage. So heads up play by using the Hunter's Mark here instead of using a kill command. Because he even could have gotten full value from it.
Amaz a little bit awkward turn here on terms of mana. He'd love to toss out Peacekeeper plus one of his 4s, whether it's, you know, the Senjin or even utilize True Silver ahead of time, but it's not very pretty at the moment. What do you think is best here?
It's tough to say. I think you really want to develop every single piece in your hand right now, but I think that Outlaw Peacekeeper's pretty much got to come down. As awful as it looks to be playing an Outlaw Peacekeeper and then like potentially like just hero powering and passing, to me, it makes a lot more sense than pretty much everything else. Like Harrison Jones doesn't impact the board. The Shield Master does impact the board, but I think you can do better. And True Silver Champion's not doing enough either. So this is his second best play. I think this is a very close second to the Outlaw Peacekeeper. But there is a little bit of a risk associated with it.
I think he wants to set up for Consecration as well because he wants to kind of get that out. Not to mention where maybe he has an opportunity to kind of answer more minions that get flooded on the board. If he has additional haunted creepers or you know, other small things like web spinners, then maybe you can kind of get really good value and use that extra 1 damage creature maybe to equalize it a little bit.
You know, I said that this had a risk associated with it, but the Eldor does as well. If you think about it, something like Ironbeak Owl can silence his own Lotheb and peel off the Eldor Peacekeeper effect. So that's something to note as well. So this actually, it may not even make a difference if he chooses to use Eldor or use this engine at the end of the day.
All right, well, StrifeCro is not going to take the bait whatsoever. He's really prioritizing keeping Lotheb at high health, which is extremely intelligent. Once again, like you've been mentioning, you know, popping up this trap, which, did you get a good glimpse on what trap it was?
It was Explosive Trap.
Okay, and so, you know, again, playing outside of Consecration range, very important, and continue to put pressure. Paladin's at 10 health. He has Leroy in hand, so there is lethal represented right now, unless Amaz has something, but we know he can kind of stabilize here.
Yeah, this actually might be one of the games that he's able to stabilize because of the way this panned out. If that was a freezing trap, I think, that the Mad Scientist got, you might be able to... I mean, I think it would have just been in favor of StrifeCro at that point. He would have had no way to actually deal with the Lotheb.
Pretty dead draw here on Hunter's Mark, at least for what StrifeCro wanted, a finishing potential of some kind. But, you know, he still is a little bit short on mana because Leroy, you kind of want to squeeze in something on 9 mana, whether it's Kill Command, Leroy, or is Leroy Unleash the Hounds with the hero power. So that's usually the money spot for Hunter on turn 9.
Honestly, I don't mind just using Leroy here. If your opponent plays Tyrion, you're not going to get this damage ever. Or likely not going to get the damage ever, and I think you just got to go for it. I think this is a really strong play from StrifeCro here. He recognizes that he's already in peril, and then he needs to get the job done as soon as possible. So this forces your opponent into playing Tyrion or having a heal spell here. Once, say they elect to play Tyrion and you happen to get lucky and draw some extra damage, it works out perfectly. Or if your opponent happens to heal and you draw something like Unleash the Hounds, then you can make the push from there.
Well, get the guaranteed damage in now, so that way, if you ever get to the point where the Tyrion does come down, or Belcher or something where you can't use in the future, all of a sudden it becomes defunct.
Unleash the Hounds.
And another interesting point.
Oh, wow. I actually forgot the Explosive Trap is in place, so he basically just can't attack.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
He needs to draw, and well, I mean, the Explosive Trap will negate with the True Silver, right? It'll heal 2 damage and deal 2 damage, so he'll still be at 3. But regardless, Amaz is on a very real clock. He needs to draw healing next turn, or else it's over.
Oh my.
And StrifeCro really has nothing else to do here. The Mad Scientist Buzzard, headed Hunter's Mark is not really going to set anything up. He just wants the best opportunity possible to end it. Amaz needs to draw a heal right now. Holy Light, Lay on Hands. Humility is not it. He needed something like Guardian of Kings.
Yep.
Wait, is there a way to draw at all? No, Harrison Jones can't proc off any weapon.
No, that's going to do it. There's no way to deal 30 damage with this hand. Wow.
I'm looking, and I don't see any opportunity either. So it looks like game one will go to StrifeCro, and taking down the Paladin, which is a deck that's performing very well in high-level tournaments just because of how Naxxramas has been able to shore up a lot of its matchups. Amaz is just going to hack into it, activate the Cooler Trap, and drop the game. And StrifeCro will start off in a 1-0 lead. I guess if you're StrifeCro, then you're still feeling pretty good because Hunter did the job and got the first game win. Let's get ready for game number 2 and find out what Amaz has chosen for this best of 7. All right, it will be the Warlock, which leans towards the Zoo. I would be very surprised if it was Handlock being picked directly into Hunter. Absolutely no way there. And it definitely seems to be the Zoo here with Void Terror and Double Voidwalker.
Yep. So this is sort of a unique hand from StrifeCro. He's got basically both the tools he needs to start fighting against this deck. I'm curious. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Here's the second one. Of course, if those fetch freezing traps, though, it could be different.
Yeah, still, though, it gives you the ability to seize back tempo on board. And it also puts out enough power to deal with threats early on. You know, Haunted Creeper is 3 damage spread out, maybe even 4 if it's a 1-attack creature trading into it. And then Unleash the Hounds, like we know, is not even just the draw mechanic with Starving Buzzard, but also the clear if you're able to kind of sneak in something like maybe a Timberwolf or just go for straight up AoE because there's a lot of weak minions early on.
Yep. Do you kill a Scientist here or do you push for 2 damage? I think you push for 2 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think you're the aggressor for sure, because you're putting out more minions. There is a very finite time before Unleash the Hounds is viable, so you don't want to kind of give your opponent life unnecessarily when you're playing the Zoo deck.
At the same time, you'll weaken your own minions. You'll become more vulnerable to Unleash the Hounds if you're not making that push. And while you're becoming more vulnerable, you're actually not making anything up for it. So if you're attacking your opponent's face, and then you're setting up Unleash the Hounds that way, at least you got some damage out of it. But if you just keep attacking their minions, you actually come out basically even.
Or behind, depends on how the hunter is drawing. And speaking of drawing into stuff, you know, StrifeCro has the Explosive Trap drawn and played immediately by Mad Scientist, a very valuable card to reset Zoo. And if Zoo keeps getting their board constantly swept every single turn or two, then they can't really utilize these buffs. He's got 2 Defender of Arguses, no insurance whatsoever. He'll be able to get full value in them throughout this game.
Yep. It's his hand is extremely clunky right now. He's drawn both of the Direwolf alphas, which in this matchup I actually don't think are very strong. You're really looking for things like Haunted Creeper. You're really looking for cards like Flame Imp. I don't know if he's running Zombie Chow or not, but if he has Zombie Chow, that's certainly a card he wants to draw early on as well to make sure that he can get some value from it. Even Shattered Sun Cleric I think is going to be better at this point.
Well, the Knife Juggler comes out when maybe he could have utilized it early on, but it seems like, again, like you said, he's in a position where he won't be able to pick up optimal value. Any kind of use right now feels a little bit bad, but I think a Defender of Argus makes the most sense. It's also a little bit of a wonder what this trap is, but I think he already saw that it wasn't freezing, right? Because he attacked the previous turn.
Yep.
He knows this is explosive.
I agree as well. I think that Defender of Argus is really solid here. I think there's some arguments to be made for life tapping and then dropping Knife Juggler and then hoping you get into a 1-drop in the next couple of draws, and so you try to double Defender. But he's already got 2 in his hand, so he's got to just make something happen. Or his hand's going to get too clunky. This is sort of a really strange play. Huh.
Okay. What is he afraid of?
I don't think
and why is that buff still? Oh, sorry. Excuse me. I misread that.
You're thinking the Dark Iron Dwarf buff was still
No, I was like, I see a buff. I see a Dark Iron Dwarf. I was like, is this glitched? Is Amaz breaking the game again? No, absolutely not.
This is, I guess he just wants to get a bigger taunt in play. That's really one of the only reasons I can see that you would do it this way. I guess your guy's gonna die to both of his minions regardless, so you don't really care that much. And having the 4/4 in play is also strong against potential animal companions. It's not like weak against kill command by any means. Your opponent's not thrilled to use Hunter's Mark in this spot. I guess when you take everything into an account, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I guess it's more of a making your opponent really uncomfortable play, and also now Amaz isn't really. He can kind of bait both traps here, or at least he can bait one of the traps and not really take that big losses. He has a hand that can refill really easily because of the hero power and constantly flood the board there. He picks up an Argent Squire, which is great with the Defender of Argus, and Divine Shield is very useful against things like Unleashed Hounds because they have to chew through it multiple times over. So, it seems like Amaz is starting to pick it up, but how does he kind of do this? I think proccing the trap is important. At the same time, though, how much do you want to kind of play into flooding the board and making yourself really vulnerable to Unleash the Hounds?
I was just about to mention he's really not under very much pressure at all. Your opponent's only got a 2-4 on the board, and they haven't hero powered you once. Like that life taps the first 2 points of damage you've taken. So I think at this point you can actually start affording to life tap, because even if he whiffed on this life tap, he has the option to just Knife Juggler and use the Ardent Square. But if he draws into something like Harvest Golem, he can potentially just play that instead.
Okay. And this is also, by the way, the reason why you want to sequence Freezing Trap before, Explosive Trap before Freezing Trap every time, because otherwise the Freezing Trap would proc, and then all of a sudden the Explosive Trap kills it anyway, so you basically 2 for 1 yourself. So make sure when you're sequencing it, Explosive Trap goes first. P.S.
If this spot fails sometimes for StrifeCro, it's like the game gets really bad. Like if Maz has Soulfire here, this game is like out of control. But it's just really fortunate he ends up not having Soulfire this time. Wow, he actually doesn't have any way to get through this.
Yeah, he only can stall.
This is just going to be some damage. Yeah, he's just going to have to take a lot of damage here.
Well, does StrifeCro have a way to put... Yeah, he does have the kill command. So he has a way to push through it and put massive damage on his opponent. Low tab also makes him very strong against something like Soulfire. But the kill command just allows him to push for so much damage at the moment.
Yeah, this is just one of those things that ends up being problematic if you're in the Warlock spot, is that if Hunter manages to get control of the board, it's a very heavy control of the board.
Wow, what a value Voidwalker. He opts to develop the board and shut down his ability to use anything, whether it's if it's like one of those weird mid-range spell cards like Hellfire and Shadow Flame exist, then all of a sudden he's able to do something. But he realizes his Freezing Trap is able to kind of stall out this Harvest Golem and use this opportunity to develop the board.
Yep. Heads up play here from Amaz. This is sort of something that Mad Scientist does inconsequentially as well, is that sometimes it slows down the game. Like a lot of people feel like it's speeding it up because it's giving you such a big tempo boost, but it's like tempo doesn't necessarily mean getting one step ahead of your opponent. Tempo is just the pace of the game. So sometimes the tempo that Mad Scientist sets is that neither player are making very strong advances in terms of aggression. Like in this spot, Amaz is purely being defensive, and StrifeCro, because Amaz is able to be defensive, just has to continue to attack minions and hope that it ends up working out in his favor. Like he's got to figure out a way to kill this board. He doesn't want the Defender of Argus to get freezing trapped. This Leok's probably going to have to get sacrificed, or he's going to have to use the second kill command.
And it's getting to the point where StrifeCro is running out of cards too, and it's not going to be able to refill it easily compared to the Warlock without, at least drawing really lucky back to back. So he's spending all of his resources on really making this work. Amaz is definitely not out of the woods. He still needs to deal with these huge threats, but there is going to be an 8/3 creature with 5/2. Like that's 13 damage plus what he can continue to draw off of. Amaz can be in a tough position.
Oh, that's got to be the worst draw in his deck right now.
And wow, Void Terror doesn't help that much either.
Oh, this is brutal. He really needed something like Soulfire this turn.
Okay, well, he goes for the taunted play and tries to stall once again. He juggles on Lotheb, which kind of inconsequential at this point. Lotheb was most likely going to trade anyways.
Yep. He still doesn't want this Defender to get freezing trapped, though, I don't think. So I wonder, is there any merit? I think just 8 damage is way too much, right?
I think this Hyena's been teased way too long. The Soulfire comes one turn too late, but taking a second to evaluate, how long did it take for this Hyena? It overkilled a Voidwalker, it overkilled the Nerubian Egg. So it's like, at this point, Amaz has played with like 50 health this game.
It's a tough spot.
Do you feel comfortable being able to life tap at all?
I don't think he really wants the life tap. This is something that's sort of... I find... Wow, he just... Wait, what?
Ooh.
Like, why isn't he just playing the Void Terror and taunting it? I think that was just a sequencing error, actually. That's really the only thing that would make a ton of sense to me. Because I don't see the justification behind life tapping right here. You're already down to 10. You have to put pressure on your board. You have to actually kill your opponent. This is just an unnecessary risk to take. So Amaz kind of realizing in hindsight that he may have played that a little bit too quickly. 6 points of power on the board, though. StrifeCro gets a Hunter's Mark. Explosive Trap in hand. This may be just too much pressure from the hero power for Amaz to be able to overcome. He's got to deal 28 damage over the course of the next couple turns. I don't know if he can make that happen, though. Houndmaster not going to be getting a ton of value here. But a 4-3 body, I think, is more than enough. He just got to... All he has to do is not die in the next couple of turns, and he wins the game strictly from his hero power.
Fight.
Pretty straightforward trades here from Amaz, but again, he needs damage to get it done, and he's about to get the bad news. This is an explosive trap, and that's going to be game 2 over to StrifeCro now. He takes a quick 2-0 lead. And now Amaz, he's down to Shaman and Priest. It's someone playing on an expert class. Someone like Amaz with Priest.
I'm completely agreeing with you there, Admiral. Let's go into game 3 and find out what happens here. Can Amaz start the comeback? Because he needs to win now. You know, going down 0-3, like you said, it's very difficult to pull back 4 wins in a row with one class and this much intel. Cool golden portion, by the way. Amaz has achieved that, and being able to showcase his proficiency with Priest once again at high-level play. But it seems like he's not the only one. People have kind of been accepting to it. Forsen's been playing a lot of Priest. Even guys from Tempo Storm been playing Priest. Guys from Cloud9 playing Priest. Kalento and Nimsh. Seems like more people are on favor of putting it higher up in the tournament tier lists.
Yeah, as we were touching on earlier, just got stronger. That bow, by the way, that he mulliganed away, and that he's now drawn in his first turn, is a very ugly sight. If you're in his position, you're just like, no, that's the last thing I wanted to draw.
Yeah, no, especially against Priest, where it kind of nullifies that extra damage. If it doesn't have anything to do anyways, it's usually kind of nullifying the bow damage. Now, we talked about starts being really crucial to this matchup, but it's a pretty slow start, and it looks like a pre-Nax setup for the Priest class, right? Before Nax Rammus, this is what Priest usually struggle with. The fact that they're just waiting for the combos. They don't have minions to do. They're just kind of trying to address the board. But now with stickier minions like Haunted Creeper, things like Circle of Healing and Akanai aren't even as strong as they used to be.
Yeah, this is sort of an interesting play too here. He instantaneously uses Smite, the Holy Smite on the Haunted Creeper. And his only concern, very apparently as a result of that, is getting to turn 5 and casting Holy Nova. Yeah. He wants the board to just be clean when he gets to that point.
I mean, he's forced to expend more resources to deal with these Death Rattle minions. And also the Mad Scientist put something into play, so StrifeCro doesn't lose his board completely. Even though, yes, he did lose his entire minions, he still has something to work off of.
Was that a snake trap?
Snake Trap actually was played a little bit. I know when Raynine was streaming, he tried experimenting with it because it was a really good tempo play sometimes, especially with some of the draws and, Houndmaster synergy. But I haven't really seen it that often in this kind of high-level play.
I'm pretty sure that was a Snake Trap.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, if he's playing Scavenging Hyena cards like that, it makes sense because Snake Trap has a lot of synergy in that department. And it's also one of those curveballs that people aren't expecting. So maybe it does a lot of work. Who knows?
Why'd it have to be snakes? That's what Harrison should say when he attacks against the snake trap.
Sure, or you can put like a Samuel L. Jackson card into Hearthstone. Who put all these mother trucking snakes on this mother trucking board? Sorry, that was the PG-13 version of Snakes on a Throne, by the way. Hearthstone's a family-rated game, last time I checked. It's like PG-6 or something like that.
Yeah, censored cussing is just as fine as cussing. The cussing's unacceptable. Censored is fine. No.
Sure.
Nobody knows what you were intending to say there. What was he thinking?
By the way, it's really important that StrifeCro kind of sees some of the cards that he's playing because he's not afraid of things like Flare. Thought-stealing Flare is usually one of the best ways to seize back the game against Hunter. So that way you nullify a big portion of their deck.
Yeah.
So now that he's seeing like the web spinner, I think StrifeCro's a lot less threatened.
You know, I'm thinking about the difference between using Lotheb here and using your second and developing your second bow. And I'm not sure which one is better.
Well, you can see the bow as kind of a 3 damage or 3 mana 6 damage spell in a way, and kind of use it as your way to set up for lethal wins. I know that a lot of 100 players like Gara, for example, would always say sometimes second bow isn't a bow weapon for board control or even positioning. It's your third kill command. So it's your ability to kind of push for damage, especially if you have Leroy. Maybe Strife kind of uses that as his ability to end the game. By the way, this attack, total mind trap here by Amaz. Like, what is this? And I think he realizes this is snake trap because he's already played a minion, so it's not snipe, and attack is not misdirection, freezing, or explosive. So it's like, whoa, he's playing snake trap.
Yeah, he realizes it's snake trap at this point. It's the only thing it could be. You're gonna. The thing about it is, once you're in this position, you're like, wait a minute. I played a minion. I attacked him. It wasn't misdirect. It's not. I'm not forgetting anything, am I? Like, that's the sort of mindset that you go through when you're in that spot.
I don't know.
You don't want to forget anything. But
kind of mind-boggling.
Not really many plays as far as I'm concerned. You just Haunted Creeper, heal yourself, attack him, and pass. Wow.
Oh my.
That is strange.
Going for the power word shield. He doesn't want to play into things like Unleash the Hound, I suppose, because Lotheb could attack into Haunted Creeper, and then there's 4 minions to unleash. So I think Amaz wants to minimize the amount of value given, but he basically gave up 5 mana in order to advance that play, and it doesn't really accomplish that much. Savannah Highmane pickup, by the way, for StrifeCro, which is very important because he lacked a lot of meat to his hand, and all of a sudden he gets the biggest meat possible on the market.
I don't really understand the power word shield play still. Like, even if your opponent does make the play where they unleash the hounds, like, I would rather them unleash the hounds now than later. And if they have Blizzard unleash the hounds, you're pretty much stuck anyway because your opponent. Like, are you just committing to the fact that you can't play anything on the board anymore? That doesn't make a lot of mana sense to me. Like, now he's missed a turn of development. He missed 2 points of healing, and he could have just cast the power word shield this turn for 1 mana. I don't really get it.
It is a little creative. It's something we can probably ask him later if we do get a winner's interview, by the way. He picks up Injured Blade Master, so he has a way to kind of push out a good, strong minion, and he can also deal with the Lotheb by Shadow or Death. But, you know, at certain stages, too, you want to make sure to be able to heal and kind of stay out of range of these combos potentially. You're starting to count how much damage can you do if he Leroy's kill commands and does some other stuff. So I think he's going to also slow play this a little bit, try to squeeze into heals, and I'd be in favor of that as well.
Yeah, especially with the mind control in your hand. If you get to a point where you get to mind control something relevant, I think in this matchup, and you're at all stabilized, that you find yourself in a very heavily favored position at that point. That's something that's kind of more to the point too. Is like, if you want to continue healing a lot, why are you wasting a turn casting a 6-mana power word shield instead of healing?
All right, well, he's going to opt for the minion. I think it's okay too because you're also usually afraid of freezing trap. But it's already shown that your opponent doesn't have freezing trap on the board yet. We know StrifeCro has it in his hand, so he has an effective way to deal with it. But if he plays a freezing trap, he gives up his ability to develop the Savannah Highmane, so there is a give or take there.
Yeah, Savannah hit. Remember, Savannah's still kind of fine here too because you have the snake trap. You're not exactly worried about it.
Mm-hmm. The only thing you are afraid of is Shadow Word Death Holy Nova combo because he will be on 8 mana.
Right,
but
he just saw Shadow Word Death too.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of play. He's got a lot of different lines here, honestly. It seems like a really easy turn to just play Savannah Highmane and pass, but he has to consider the value of how much his hero power adds up, as well as
and also what is that one card? Do you feel like there's ever playing around whatever your opponent thought stole as well? Because Hunter has some of the best tools to beat Hunter.
That's
interestingly
so hard to
enough.
say. It's so hard to play around thought stole cards. You just have no idea what they're nabbing.
Sure.
It's not something that you can anticipate them playing. It's just like a total random thing, especially once you've already seen them play something. Like if he's been holding a card this long, the card always feels to me like it's something like Hunter's Mark or maybe even Kill Command.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. By the way, he picks up Emperor Cobra, a card that's been toyed around with here and there, whether it's like Ramp Druids, like Guard, try that a little bit. But now we see it not that uncommonly because of things like Web Spinner. You're able to kind of get these unique cards. Sludge Belcher, another big card that people have been picking up from Next Rammus, not only because of its just raw stats, but its ability to try and disrupt the flow of the game. Hunter has to chew through it twice, use another edition of a bow, or get a little bit of something extra. And I think that's just a very valuable card to pick up for Amaz.
Yeah, this was a really important turn for him. And really speaking to the potential, like normally in the old Priest decks, we were seeing that slot be taken up by just cards like Azure Drake. You just needed a 5-mana minion that was strong. And imagine Azure Drake on this board position instead of Sludge Belcher. It just would be just like borderline atrocious.
Pitifully weak. And it is interesting because I feel like Amaz doesn't play with many Next Rammus cards in his Priest deck. I've been seeing a lot of the same cards that we normally come to expect from Amaz and how people kind of copied his deck list. He seems to have Sludge Belchers, but he's not playing like Zombie Chow. He's not playing like the Death Lords, or I haven't even seen a Dark Cultist, which I imagine is in his deck, but I haven't really seen much of it. So it seems like Amaz is still playing a pretty standard Priest versus this new retooled, revamped Hunter that's been putting everyone on notice on the ladder. So it's interesting how it's kind of stacking up and holding its own a little bit, despite not showing too much innovation.
A lot of the difference you're seeing too between the older Priest and the one you're seeing now is that a lot more mind control is getting played because the format's slowed down. I think that's one of the biggest influences it's even made to Priest, is that it allows that card to be there again. Priest always had a really easy time swinging the game at certain points, but it was really missing a strong turn 10 swing play.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
He picks up a Holy Fire, which is a very important 10 damage swing sometimes.
Yes, a very important one right now. So this is actually like a spot where I feel like you have to know that one of these is Freezing Trap or Explosive Trap. So I feel like your first order of business is to attack this Haunted Creeper with, as painful as this sounds, your Injured Blade Master.
Yes. Because if it's not, then you set up a really good Holy Nova anyways.
Right.
But you need to take care of this high main as highest priority. You're also developing the board too.
Right.
Snake Trap comes out, and this is the point where Maz's like, okay, well, I knew this was the entire case, but boy, is that a curveball that didn't really go StrifeCro's way.
Yeah, this is the exact turn that Amaz wanted to happen.
And no beast left over either, by the way. So Houndmaster isn't exactly strong unless StrifeCro picks up something like Animal Companion.
Yep. Oh, that's painful.
Well, is this a clash challenge of Next Rammus Soul Adventure, or is this a show match best of 7 between two of the best players in the world? I don't know.
It's painful this turn, but I think he's kind of happy that he's getting the other Web Spinner out of his deck. And honestly, I don't even see Hunter's Mark being that big of a difference in this game. So I think he's kind of happy to get that out of his deck as well. I think he just wants to continue to draw business spells.
Web Spinner, by the way, is a liability sometimes because of things like Cabal Shadow Priest, which has seen a lot of increase in play in Priests with all the low drops, a lot of attack minions, and the death rattle effects that you get benefit afterwards. So, having 2 Web Spinners all the time is not exactly the best insurance this late in the game.
Yeah, I imagine he's got it. It's hard to not take Web Spinner here just because you're lacking so much on the board. But Hunter's Mark is it's a card that you're going to really want to have. Like, if you pass up your other Hunter's Mark, you're sitting in a position where it's no longer in your deck. Wow, and speaking of Cabal Shadow Priest, he doesn't take... I think that factored into his decision to take the Hunter's Mark as well. I was just about to talk about that. You called it. This was like the one play that he needed to avoid to get absolutely swept out in these last couple of turns, at least in my opinion, was avoiding a big Cabal Shadow Priest. But Amaz, this isn't even like the easiest turn for him. He's down to 13 life, so he's facing the potential of some Leroy damage coming out. And since your Hunter opponent is just hero powering, I think there's a really good chance that you anticipate something like Unleash the Hounds being in his range, or maybe even Leroy, and that he's looking for one piece or the other to put the rest of the damage together. So this turn is a lot less about which minion he should play and a lot more about whether or not he should Holy Fire.
Holy Fire would bring him back up to 20, he just heals himself. But it doesn't give him an ability to set up for a next turn win unless he draws like Ragnaros and pull some Amaz magic. So it is a little bit tough. As much as you want to survive, you also want to figure out the best way to increase your chances to win if your opponent doesn't have exactly what he needs to win the next turn.
Yep.
Is there a way to even do that? I don't think so. He's going to go for the passive play, defensive one. And 20 health is pretty comfortable if all your opponent has is the Spectral Spider.
Oh,
Ooh.
wow. This is going to be an Unleash turn. But if you unleash that, you can't play Leroy, Unleash, and Houndmaster this turn. Oh my gosh.
Just play a naked Houndmaster. It is 4 attack, so it gives trouble in that department.
Yeah, priests have no way to deal with 4 attack minions.
Well, he can mind control it, I guess. That's one way to deal with the 4 attack minion.
Not a bad. I don't think this is a bad mind control turn at all. If that's the turn you just saw. At that point, you have to know that your opponent is running on some sort of unleash potential, and that they really have to make a push for the game.
Actually, he's gonna go for the Thought Steal. He gets Starving Buzzard, which is pretty useless.
Wow.
Unless you want to put a little bit more damage. And Mad Scientist, which doesn't fetch any secrets.
Thought
so Amaz
Steal.
just has minions.
Thought Steal is awful against Hunter.
God, it's the best and worst card against Hunter sometimes. That
Oh my gosh.
is painful. That is brutal because now all of a sudden his choices become really difficult on how to deal with this Houndmaster. This gamble did not pay off whatsoever for Amaz. He was hoping for something like maybe even a kill command to just answer directly, and then, also this does fish some information. Like he knows his opponent doesn't have probably the Buzzard Unleashed maybe, and the fact is he kind of sees his opponents running out of actual threats. So this is intel for Amaz, but how do you kind of go from here?
I think you just lost at this point. Honestly, he really needed an answer to come out that turn. As it's standing, he's going to be facing that with damage. I think this is almost lethal. 6 + 5 + 2 + 4. Oh my gosh! And even drew Buzzard.
Well, let's see. How does he go from here? I mean, Amaz is just trying to heal up, but he still doesn't have a way to win the game.
He's got 6 from Leroy. He's got 4 from Houndmaster. He's 2 off.
12. He's 2 off from lethal at the moment. He's going to draw, though, and maybe piece it up. He still has 1 more high main as far as we remember. Yep. He can't draw the rest of his deck with this move.
That's basically, I think that's the objective. I mean, you find the rest of your deck, how hard is it to lose at that point?
Do you want to draw that 1 extra card, or do you going to use the Hunter's Mark here?
I think you're more than happy to use the Hunter's Mark.
Well, when you have 2. Yeah, Houndmaster and Kill Command, a very important card to finish the game after this is all over, and that's where even Starving Buzzard has some utility. So Amaz is on the ropes.
Yep, that one looks good. Brutal, brother.
Amaz needs like a second Holy Nova or something to kind of stabilize, heal up a little bit.
Yep.
Wild Pyromancer.
No spells though. Oh my gosh.
If only he drew some spells off of the Thought Steal, or even had Thought Steal.
All right. So he can mind control Leroy, attack the 4/3, and attack the 1/1 and the 2/1. Puts himself at 9. But he's basically giving up his entire board position that way. And he has to find a way to fend off all the damage his opponent's going to throw at him for the rest of the game. But he doesn't have a follow-up to the mind control. So what card does he need to draw to be able to win the turn after this game? Does he have to draw Holy Nova here?
He has to draw Holy Nova, Holy Fire, or something to stabilize a little bit, and then something to like Ragnaros.
StrifeCro's hand is exciting, but he's already drawn enough cards. I think he's more than happy with the fact that his Buzzard's just a beast.
Yeah, and it becomes a 4/3 off the Houndmaster. Yep. You put your opponent on a very noticeable turn, and his opponent will have to have that Holy Nova. You're right. That is the only way for Amaz to live, I think, from this point on.
My gosh. Do you even develop the explosive trap here? I don't think you do. If your opponent
I don't see a reason why not to, though.
I just don't think you need to. Or just put a little bit more doubt in your opponent's mind.
Say he wants to be hero powering every turn. So say he draws like Savannah Highmane, your opponent has a heal up, and you want to be kill commanding plus hero powering. So in this scenario, you kind of want to do something else. By the way, he draws 1 way to deal with a threat, but still doesn't have 2. But at the same time, he kills a beast, so StrifeCro still doesn't have or wait, does he? Oh, he does have it, excuse me. He does have hero power. So I think that's going to be it, because Amaz has no other way to live past this, and StrifeCro is going to go up 3-0.
Wowie. Look at that damage. Consistent, heavy pressure throughout the entire course of the game. But, you know, honestly...
So a lot of people are cheering for him, but a lot of people who really respect StrifeCro plays have been recognizing he's been one of the best from the very beginning and showing once again why that is. Let's go into game 4 and find out if StrifeCro is going to go for the sweep, or will Amaz be able to at least win 1 or maybe even 4 games here. We've seen it last week, right? Savitz was down 0-3, and he used Hunter of all things to 4-0 Reynad. Now Amaz will have to rely on Shaman to do the same thing.
Oh, weird. It's almost like Hunter's really strong right now.
Huh, man, maybe I should play some Hunter on ladder. I don't think anyone's thought of that yet, huh?
I feel like it was just 2 weeks ago that we were talking about how strong Miracle Rogue was.
I know. Those days were so good, right?
Nax cards have made a huge impact. And again, the biggest reason I think is just because of consistency. Decks have
I like
a very distinct game plan moving through the first couple turns of the game. They always want to apply pressure.
I just like how the meta has slowed down to make it a little bit more difficult, because you have a lot of disruption now. Before, the game felt very mapped out, right, from turns 1 to 5, especially when you had things like Druid and Miracle Rogue. It was Miracle Rogue stalling out until they get gadgets in, and Druids making sure they have Wild Growth and Innervate, and kind of just dropping big creatures. Now it's all of a sudden you have Lotheb on specific turns to disrupt. You have Mad Scientist to break up the tempo. These kinds of cards are really cool to see how they interact with a lot of the minions. By the way, a Leok coming out here to give him a little buff is a little tricky, but at least it's not Huffer, right? Huffer feels like it's pretty awful a lot of times when your opponent has easy removal and a Harvest Golem staring at you.
Yeah. I would be a little bit surprised if this Mad Scientist didn't attack this Harvest Golem. But at the same time, it's like you're not excited to do it, because it's like, is a freezing trap even good right here?
Not really, not on the damage golem, the Harvest Golem itself, but I mean, that damage golem did its work essentially.
Yeah, Amaz is more than happy to make that trade. And you know, he's kind of got the hand that's really going to fend off one of these Hunter draws very well. He's got spot removal spells into a Lotheb, into a Hex, or something like Savannah Highmane. But StrifeCro, this is like the way next level here, is Snake Trap. Yeah, so he's going to be able to counter apply that pressure that we were talking about is so hard for Hunters to come back from when they get picked apart with something like Snake Trap. This is fantastic deck building so far.
All right, Houndmaster on this just seems pretty fair, and you might even bait out something like Hex before Savannah Highmane comes out too, which is, I mean, you don't obviously want to lose too many minions, but at least it's not on your Highmanes, and then if Shaman doesn't have a way to deal with it, they can be in big trouble. Amaz immediately reaches for his Earth Shock and tries to go for the spot removal, and he's going to choose to kill off the Leok and use his Lightning Bolt, so all of his removal pretty much comes out here, and he's able to put on pressure. That's what Shaman needs to do. You can't take any damage, really, unnecessarily from Hunter, because you don't have healing mechanics. At
this point, though, he's pretty far ahead, so he feels comfortable with what's happening. But again, I think this Snake Trap is actually going to sway the game.
Ooh.
It's been a long time since I think I've ever even come close to saying something like this, but I think Snake Trap is going to be the difference in winning and losing this game.
A long time? Have you've said that before in the past? Is that what
there was a point I remember when Buzzard was a 2/2, and Snake Trap got played a lot during that time because you had to attack it, you couldn't hero power it. So it ended up like your minions got attacked a lot. I feel like in that scenario, so it was like Buzzard and then Snake Trap was really common, and so you just got 3/1/1s and you drew 3 cards. That was also prior to the Unleash the Hounds change. That was when Unleash the Hounds was still +1/+0. And charge to
that's right. That's right. Good times, man. Rest in peace, Chan, man. StrifeCro draws into the Haunted Creeper, so it continue to build his board, make it a little bit more resistant, because you are sometimes afraid of Lightning Storm, but it seems like his opponent doesn't really have that immediately. He just drops a Gnomish Inventor. His hand seems to be good at addressing things, but in terms of setting up the initiative, it's kind of weak here for the Hunter player. So StrifeCro not really getting a good draw with that Haunted Creeper, but at least it's something to play.
Yeah, I imagine this is the point where you probably just make a push for damage. I don't think that you can afford to wait around and try to answer your opponent's board position. Like maybe one of these snakes can attack into the damage golem, but other than that, you have to really you kind of sort of got to start putting the pedal down and hoping that it works out for you.
God, how annoying is this Hunter deck, by the way? So many of these like small 1/1 creatures, whether it's hounds, snakes, spiders, it's just the grossest type of creatures available on the entire world of Warcraft. Just continue to annoy your opponent. Defender of Arc is getting good value, by the way, and being able to get 2 targets while setting up 8 health of taunt. So this is really nice. It seems like StrifeCro is continuing to draw. Oh, we got his buzzard. I was gonna say he was drawing poorly, but his buzzard can change a lot of things.
My gosh, I think that buzzard is a pretty huge draw right now. If he finds a hunter's mark off of this, or even something like a Timberwolf, this game can really change.
He's got one way to
do it.
Continue.
Oh, there's a hunter's mark. Oh my gosh.
You can continue pushing draws too with the Hunted Creeper. Or does he want to even start hero power? I think you kind of want to continue loading, draw that extra card, maybe pick up a second kill command or even Leroy. Loteb is nice too, so that way you can deny your opponent's ability to play a lot of spells, which Shaman excels at with all these cheap one mana cost stuff.
Yep, just keep chewing apart minions.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of turn he needed to get back into the game, by the way. He was falling so far behind in terms of actual health and power on the board. The cards were where he was really lacking. So it's like now that he's gotten to this point, the cards are a bit more even, but his card quality is really high. And that's the kind of thing that he needed to really get this game back in order. Because he was almost completely out of it if he didn't draw that buzzard, I think.
Undertaker, by the way, is included inside of Amaz's deck. Another card that's been recently introduced in the past few weeks, and been with the proliferation of death rattles with Haunted Creeper, and people playing Harvest Golems all the time to Rubian Egg. Undertaker's seen a little bit more play, whether it's in Hunter or even Zoo, and now Shaman.
Yeah, that's sort of. Well, it's sort of it's telltale of a couple things to me. The first one is that he's not running Argent Square. And the second one is that if he's running Harvest Golem and a lot of other Death Rattle minions, then he might not actually have something like Unbound Elemental in his deck. His major concern might just be having strong Death Rattle minions throughout the course of the game.
Sure.
And making sure he can follow up that way. Oh my gosh, is that another buzzard? Not that that's like a huge...
It is.
Not that that's a huge spot right now, but now he's got a couple draws in his deck that are just bonkers at this point. Like any chain of... Yeah, any chain of beasts or Unleash the Hounds is just going to be a disgusting amount of cards in hand. At this point, though, you got to be worried about something like Hex. So how much are you weighing playing Lotheb over playing Savannah Highmane at this point?
That's a really tough question. Because Lotheb also has his own drawbacks as well. Because you're not immune to things like Fire Elemental, and then gaining really easy board position off of that. So Lotheb doesn't even make you really immune. It's really about which cards are you going to play around. Stuff like Fire Elemental or stuff like Hex. Savannah Highmane being hovered over, which is okay. As long as he's hero powering, by the way, it's also really important because that way he gets within kill command range. Things like Explosive Trap also might be really key to set up good, powerful turns in the future with Unleash the Hounds and some of the other stuff. What really sucks too is also that Healing Tome, so that way he can't set something up nicely with Explosive Trap.
Right.
All right, well, there's not a better target to Hex, in my opinion. Maybe if he top decks King Crush off of a web spinner. Only thing better than maybe like King Crush off of a web spinner, but even then, you want to gain the tempo already by just using Hex immediately and then fighting for the board position.
Yeah, I got a King Crush the other day and attacked a warrior 3 times with it and lost anyway.
How?
Web spinner. I didn't have anything else going on. It was just the King Crush, and he had like 30.
You just had King Crush.
Yeah. I was like, yes, I drew King Crush. And I was like, oh, it's not doing anything right now.
It doesn't matter. Had King Crush. Totally understand that.
Had King Crush. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Had Crush.
Good summertime flanks. StrifeCro picks up a bow, which allows him to kind of continue to press a little bit if he's able to chew through. But now it's starting to get to the point where Shaman's board is a little intimidating, and he doesn't have the exact way to deal with a big player because he doesn't have Unleash the Hounds just yet. Maybe Amaz can turn this around, because now if he drops Lotheb, it becomes really difficult. You can't really Buzzard Unleash unless you oh no, you do have 10 mana. Never mind. Excuse me. He does have it.
Is he going to play Explosive Trap instead of Lotheb? Oh, is he just gonna try to kill him? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So 2 from Hero Power, 2 from Explosive Trap, 3 more from Bow. That's 7 damage, and then 2 more the following turn. That's 9. Wow, that's 15 with Starving Buzzard and Kill Command. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think Amaz just died.
Let's see how he top decks. He could surprise us, but Lightning Storm is not it. He does have Lotheb to kind of throw the cost of the spells, but I think that's enough anyways, right? Oh no, he doesn't have a beast. No, if he plays Lotheb, he can't Kill Command and drop the Buzzard and Hero Power, I think. So he's going to be short a little bit of damage.
But remember, he's got to actually push through at this time too. So this gives him an extra turn, but he's already going to be taking the attack damage from here, which is the relevant part of this. That actually needed to be a Taunt Totem.
Yeah, he needed to be exactly what you're saying. That Taunt Totem would have been really clutch. Maybe Amaz can survive. Leroy off the top still is lethal as well.
Amaz has got to drop 4 damage next turn, right? So like Doomhammer could do it. A second Flame Tongue could do it. Alakir could win the game. Even something like as crazy as Bloodlust, or even if he chose something like Lightning Bolt, he could roll Spell Power. So this Lotheb actually could. This may have given him the turn that he needs to win this game. At this point.
Well, hold on. The jury is kind of out on that one still, because StrifeCro still has some tools to weaken the damage. Utilizing the bow as a way to kind of kill off the Flame Tongue Totem if he feels like he's threatened of dying. So that way he restricts the amount of damage the opponent could draw into the win. Not to mention that Lotheb increases the cost of spells. So StrifeCro might utilize the Lotheb to disrupt once again. And this is where Lotheb's, his timing is really important for these games. So that way you can determine what's the best way to set yourself up for the win. Now with Buzzard, Kill Command, and the Hero Power and the Bow, unless his opponent is able to kind of do something dramatic, he can't do anything.
My gosh, he drew Feral Spirits, and that's going to stop damage from the Eagle Horn Bow. And StrifeCro's going to be 1 damage short of actually killing him now.
Taunt Totem would be nice too.
And he rolls a Taunt Totem.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Well, StrifeCro still can draw something like the Unleash the Hounds and push through with maybe double Kill Command. I don't know. Maybe, perhaps. No, he doesn't have enough mana to do that. That would be 10.
He's going to have to draw some damage, or he's going to be dead. Because he's facing down 8 points of damage this turn. Oh my goodness.
But he has tracking. He has tracking to kind of maybe push through second Kill Command. Maybe second Kill Command plus Hero Power would be enough. So there's a lot of outs here for StrifeCro, in my opinion. There's 4 cards, or maybe even more if he picks up second tracking.
He's got, just the tracking alone is going to be able to see 4 cards next turn.
Yep.
To find a way to kill Amaz. He needs 1 extra point of damage.
By the way, a tough decision. Amaz trying to feel like, what can he really die to? Is it kind of worth pushing for damage, setting yourself to potentially win the following turn? You don't even have a guarantee to lethal from the hand if things go poorly. He's going to go for the trade, a defensive move. And now StrifeCro, it's a moment of truth, but now he picks up the damage to win. He has tracking. Keep in mind, second Kill Command is game. The Leroy shows up, but he can't push through everything. And unfortunately, doesn't even have Unleash the Hound. StrifeCro has kind of whiffed on this tracking to end the game.
He whiffs, but he's not facing lethal next turn. And that's what Amaz gave up when he made this attack. Is he gave up 5 points of damage on his opponent. His opponent would be at 8 health, and he would have 8 damage worth of minions sitting on the sideline. So he would have lost to this tracking because Leroy Jenkins would have been lethal with Lotheb attacking into one of the wolves, and then the bow attacking into one of the wolves, and then Leroy Jenkins to finish the job with hero power. But he gave up a really large position in terms of being able to kill his opponent the following turn. And it's like, just like you wait a minute, he has the totem in play. No, he wouldn't even die to Leroy. I think this is just like a big oversight by Amaz here, because he could have just killed his opponent next turn and he was safe from basically everything.
Wait, are you
need
sure?
to
Because
make
he also had
push.
kill command. Was he able to squeeze everything through with Leroy kill command and hero power with
No,
the
no,
tracking?
that's what I'm saying. Amaz would have had the game this turn because his opponent had to go through 3 taunts, so it would have been 1 damage off lethal.
No,
So
I
now
think he
he's
would have
this-
been dead either way. He had Lotheb, plus he had the bow, plus he had the kill command, so he would have been able to chase shoot through, and Leroy hero power would have finished him. Amaz
Oh, you're
actually
right,
stayed
Leroy-
alive. He actually did stay alive, but now as a result, he made the right play, but it won't matter. StrifeCro has 4-0'd Amaz decisively with his Hunter deck. Despite a few close games, Amaz has brought it down to the wire a few times, but not enough to win any single games in this entire set. So StrifeCro is going to take it 4-0, and he's going to win $700 to take home for today.